Hello, hello. How's it going, everyone? So, today we are going to play around with some React 3 Fiber things. Net space as a no pun intended. um, as always, the jokes never get better, but I always appreciate them. Um, so there is a new integration, I guess you could call it, that works with Three.js, and they've got an extension for React 3 Fiber that allows you to, um, using controls that they've built, play around with your scene. So rather than trying to like tweak numbers or whatever in your code, you can actually see your scene and move sliders and everything, and it gives you more of a visual editing experience. That's probably the best way to say it. Visual editing experience. And it just came out like a day and a half ago, something like that. So we're gonna give it a shot. It looks really cool. They've been teasing it for apparently they've been working on it for a while, and they've been teasing it for at least a good week or two that I've seen. Let's go ahead and pop over to the display. Do I have nope? All right, I'm gonna pull up my tweet. Drop that in the chat too. But that has a link to a thread where they kind of go through this new thing that they built. It kind of sounds like Arya? Arya? I'm guessing it's probably Arya. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name. It sounds like there's a company behind it, which honestly, this is probably a space that could support it. So that's not something that is terribly concerning. But like, yeah, look at those controls. Like I think it's just a neat way to interact with and understand like the camera. We've done a couple streams now on the camera movements and trying to understand how the camera works, and like we basically just had to tweak a number and see what it looked like, and that feedback loop is just not great, and this looks so much better. So you can see that you end up getting little controls in the corner, and that's how you do a bunch of your tweaking. I'm especially interested in this because I think it's going to help with the scene that we have here. So like we could let's drop some stars. Yeah, so we've got a scene rolling right here. I really should color those. I might end up just doing that now on stream. That's gonna bug me now that I notice that. And actually, we didn't do we added chairs. We made. Is there much more in this? I guess not. We'll keep this open for the links, and y'all can follow along in the link that I dropped. Whoa. Where did I put that? Here. That's what I was going to. So we made a chair last time. Did it in like solid 15 minutes or so, I think. Maybe a little bit less. But we got that into the scene. I did that last night, and I need to do. I think I'll just do it on this side here real quick. But we got that into the scene, so we can add a new channel point redemption for that. I'm going to go to my dashboard and rewards, channel points. Just pull this over. So we've got, these are all the channel point redemptions that we have so far. And we just did the drop stars. So that's the one that we triggered. So we can add a new custom. We'll say drop chairs. Like I said, the jokes don't get better. What kind of color do we do for that? It's almost like a, spoiler alert, but it's almost like a bronzy. So I think I'm going to add or set the color to kind of match that. Sure. So now we should have a channel point redemption that drops the chairs that we made last time. It is a slightly different material. For reasons. The way that Blender and the GLTF export work is that, and particularly with our physics system, so we're using React 3 Rapier, and that currently doesn't support multiple meshes in an instanced mesh, which means our GLTF export needs to only have one mesh. This has three. One, the legs are a mesh with modifiers, then there's the seat, and then there's the backrest, which is a Bezier curve with geometry nodes. So what I ended up doing was piping all of that through another set of geometry nodes and exporting it as a single instance, and then the GLTF export actually picks it up as a single mesh, which works nice, but it seems to blitz our textures. So we lost the wood, and rather than trying to recreate it, I just went with like a solid bronze. So we had like a bronze chair, I guess. I don't know. It's fun. We'll probably play around with materials more and geometry nodes as we go. But so we've got the scene. I have it pulled up here. Here's all our GLTF models that we can drop onto the scene now. And all of our models, of which they're output from the GLTF JSX library. So you run that, the CLI, against a GLTF export. Well, it doesn't have a GLTF file, and it will create basically like a React Three.js thing that you can drop right into React 3 Fiber. We've modified it a bunch to hook it up to the events and such, so that every time we press a button, it's gonna like re-drop them from the sky. So what we want to do is, let's see if we can get to the docs. We'll take a peek at what they are working with here. And we'll see, from what I've seen people trying this out, it seems that we might have some issues with implementing it in a place where we have the physics through Rapier. So we'll have to think about that. So we might kind of spike out using this, but outside of our physics. So like the text alert we've got, if you type in 3D, that might work better. That isn't tied to physics at all. We might be able to see that. So like it seems like it's been around for a little bit. we can go, let's go to the GitHub, check out the GitHub. Just looking at some of the files here, we've got, oh, uses Wallaby, interesting. License is usually a good indication of how old the project is. Without digging in further. So, you know, it's a little bit over a year. And it seems like this release just had, what's the changelog look like? So they didn't update their changelog, and their last change was 12 months ago. So it seems like they've been working on the .5 release for a year. But this is the big piece right here. We've been building a 3D editor for existing React 3 Fiber projects. So we're gonna pull in Theatre.js with this Theater/R3F. And see, this is where we might start to trip up, because we need to mark our meshes as editable. But we're kind of already wrapping it with physics stuff. So we can probably throw this in the scene within our canvas, but we might need to do it like outside of the actual physics. The potential saving grace here is that we are mostly caring about the camera. I don't need to really edit the point lights or any of the meshes. Like, I don't need to tie anything to those. I care more about, for this specific situation, I want to play around with the camera. So we might be able to actually use it within our React 3 Fiber scene. But we can see that there are some pretty nifty interacting with the objects themselves. So this might be something that we kind of play around with for maybe if we get into animations or something, placing the object in space, that might help us do that. But I imagine that most of what we're going to care about here and benefit from is the camera movement. So let's go ahead and go to the docs. They've got a, is this Docusaurus? I think this is Docusaurus. It looks nice. Now I'm curious. To the docs, here we go. View press, okay. So it is not Docusaurus. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have the little interaction button in the corner. Okay, so we want to get started with React 3 Fiber. These are going to be our dependencies. We've got React 3 Fiber. Oh, when using TypeScript. Okay, so I'm not using TypeScript, so I think I can just get away with these. I don't actually need that save anymore. Not that I think it's going to matter, but it kind of bugs me. So this will give us the .5 release of everything. The Theater/R3F is what we need for those like scene editor tools. We've kind of got this already. Let's pull this over here. I'm gonna make this just a little bit smaller. I'm hoping that sidebar is gonna collapse. There we go. Okay. All right, let's go to the root of a project. Those are the routes. Where'd my Did I do separate canvases? Canvas. I did do separate canvases. Interesting. I'm particularly interested in our model. So the thing that I want to dig into a little bit here is like if we drop some stuff here, the angle of the camera and whatnot. Okay, wait for all this stuff to fall. There's a physics object down here that it hits. So like playing around with the camera and getting things to where the camera is like we don't have distortion. I think we're gonna have to change the field of view, but we're gonna have to like shift the camera to where we can. I want that physics object to be down at the bottom, so like we get the physics reactions right at the bottom of the screen, basically. So I'm most curious about using this within the scene that has physics, but that could cause us issues. We'll give it a shot though. And we'll kind of go from there. So we want the theater core. Where? Get projects. We'll use this later. Okay, well, I got that already. The GUI. I understand why they do snippets to get you to focus on a specific thing. But you start to lose the context of, are we just doing this all in the same file? I'm going to assume that we're trying to do this all in the same file. So demo sheet is going to be available, but we also have a studio. So like I'm this is kind of an interesting part. I'm presuming that we want these. And actually, I think I'm going to move them down here. Type only include Theatre.js Studio in development builds. Okay, we're going to have to think about that a little bit. I'm not too worried about it right now. But so we import sheet provider. Okay, and see, this is where the demo sheet comes in with reference to the demo sheet from above. Okay. I feel like sheet has some pre-existing expectations. Like, this seems like some actual theater movie, that industry type language, which I'm less familiar with. I'm guessing sheet is a specific term in that industry. So we need to do a sheet provider, and we're going to put it on the canvas. I've got a suspense. I think I'm going to put it in the suspense. I don't know what the expectation is there, but we'll see. And we do need this demo sheet. So go ahead and do this. The ordering of this is kind of weird because we have all these sort of like top level global type things. That's fine, I guess. See, get project. I wonder what that's doing. Okay, so we've got sheet provider. It's referencing demo sheet, which we now have. Now we want to make things editable. I don't know if you actually need that because I don't care to make any of the meshes editable. I don't presume. So prefix the object's JSX element with an E. Okay, so they're importing editable as E. So in this case, they're actually tweaking a point light. We do have lights, and I wouldn't mind playing around with those a little bit. So we could. I think we actually do pull that in. I guess I kind of want to have this written out because I'm gonna come back to this at some point and go, what the heck does E dot mean? And this, I think, is going to be clear if we have editable written out completely. Okay, we've got something started. Let's go ahead and start our dev server up here, and we can. Whoop, that's not the right localhost. 5170. Come on, localhost. 5173. There we go. Actually, let's just pull this browser window out. Now it's thinking a lot, which isn't a good sign. Oh, hey, okay. React is running in production mode, but dead code elimination has not been applied. Interesting. We do have our editor. There we go. I was zoomed out. So we do have some things here. It is, we might need to put some stationary objects in here. What is their default scene? Okay, so they do, I'm fine with this, just to get a box or something in there so we can see it. And I don't need that inside of the physics. It is definitely, I wonder if the suspense is giving the sheet provider troubles. Tree. So that's kind of cool. I don't particularly care about this dead code elimination and such. I mean, because we're in dev right now. Check the render method of model canvas. So there might be, we've got canvas, we've got sheet provider, and we've got some lights, and then a mesh. Just to rule this out, let's go ahead and comment out all of the physics. That debug is there we go. Comment out all the physics stuff. So it should just be sort of the default scene that they have in the guide. Studio editable. We were marking those as editable. Let's take out the suspense. And we'll see if that makes a difference. Please select an object from the outline menu to see its properties. Props. Viewport config. And it's interesting because I'm not seeing any mesh either. So if we take out the sheet provider, we don't do editable. So we're still. Why are we getting sheet stuff here? I've commented out the sheet provider, the suspense. I mean, it must be this. Like, I wonder what it's doing in the back end, or like kind of behind the scenes, as it were. I guess just. Okay, so you imported it, but you haven't initialized it. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't. I'm trying to make sure that this issue that we're having. Okay. The error messages seem to be pretty good too, which I appreciate. Let's just get rid of everything. Make sure that we are getting a scene. Okay, so we've got our scene and we've got our little cube thing down there. And you can see box geometry. It's supposed to be a 1x1x1. So we got some pretty wild perspective going on that like fisheye ends or fisheye lens look. So we're gonna have to play around with that a little bit. If we add it back in just the imports, that should give us the controls back. It's possible that we have to do something with Vite, and that's part of what's causing issues here. Okay, so we do have our scene loaded now. I think we're gonna go ahead and make this much larger so we can see it. I would zoom in. I guess that's not too bad. If I zoom in too much though, we're gonna like lose our scene as well, because our scene is hard coded to be basically the size of this. I don't know if that's going to cause an issue if we need to adjust our Vite config to not run React in production mode, I guess. So let's do this sheet provider. I mean, we get the UI, so like clearly something is working there. So no error there. I don't see where these controls are showing up. World space. And then it's not quite clear to me create snapshot. That's kind of empty. I feel like there's controls here somewhere and I'm just not seeing them. Let's drop in the suspense and see if that seems to be what's causing some issues here. And that's also interesting. It's already defined. They are different imports. So we've got one from the root and then one from dist extension. I mean, I guess that's fine. I'm presuming that the reason they do it this way is that it makes it easier to do like an import as part of dev mode. So when you're in dev mode, you pull it in. When you're in production, you don't. I'm guessing that's the deal here. What else do we got? Okay, so after extending through a new button will appear in the top left of the UI. It will bring up the scene editor, but the editor will contain an empty space because it's not connected to our scene yet. Okay, so there must be a button that we're missing. So it's the snapshot button. I thought it was actually taking a picture. So that makes sense. Display flat, solid. Okay, so this is very much like Blender. This feels like a Blender thing. So we can do it. Translate tool. Tool translate, tool rotate. So it seems like nothing works, which is what I think they're calling out here. Clicking it will bring up the scene editor, but our editor will contain an empty space. So we need to do the demo sheet thing. Oh, and that's what we did. So we've got that already done. And then we did the editable. So we can throw that back in to make our lights editable. Got it. So yeah, we get ooh, doesn't like that. I think I crashed it. Let's try that again. So it's initializing the scene. Yeah, there are definitely some issues going on here. I have a suspicion that it has something to do with the suspense. I don't know if it seems like also when we make things editable is when it starts to show up, but I suspect it has something to do with the suspense. Yeah, and see, it doesn't seem to like the editable. Which might be fine if we really just want to play around with the camera a little bit here. We might have issues with the suspense, but it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so we can make the cube editable in the same way. We can try. So it's saying do the mesh as an editable dot mesh. So it's having trouble with some or all of the lights, but if we just do the mesh, It almost seems like anything that's editable just gives it trouble. So they have a point light in here that is editable. If you just mark the point light as editable, it may very well be that the point light is something that can move, the ambient light and such can't, and like the errors that we're getting at it are just not incredibly intuitive. Huh. That's kind of wild. Okay, so nothing editable. We got that. Got that. So it seems to have an issue with that button is like, for the reference window to work. Interesting. Okay. Are we missing something? Okay, so they do. And it could have something to do too with the camera settings and such that we're using here. Get project demo sheet. So they're doing the demo sheet here. Honestly, I kind of prefer that. I don't think it's gonna make a difference, but I think for what we're working with at the moment, that's gonna be the nice way to go. If we put it just on this point light, that should we should basically be at this point. Let's see if we end up getting there. So when we refresh. Yeah. That is interesting. Cannot read properties of undefined. Reading visible only in editor. So we definitely have something going on there. Editable point light. Theater key. It's possible that we are missing the theater key. Position and color. Position and color we have, but we don't have a theater key. And add in the theater key prop. Yeah, okay, I completely read over that. The following code will make the point light object editable. There we go. Yep. So that was the piece that was missing. This is not terribly smooth, but also like I'm streaming and stuff, so I don't know that I should have different expectations there. So if I hold shift and right click, I can move around. Just right click is translate. Normal like left click does not do anything. I can grab the light. So this is that's the light. I can rotate the light. If I switch to the move, I can move it. So we should see our light change there. Yeah. It's not too much. I mean, it's so if you look way in the bottom corner, as I move this, you can see the light change in that cube. So it is affecting the scene. I wish they had like a performance. That would be kind of nice. And we can like scale it up. And that will affect the light on the cube as well. So that is working. Now if we do, yeah, so here, I was missing the theater key. I was, oh, okay, theater key, never mind. Mesh. Yeah, I completely read over that when I was skimming. So we've got editable on the mesh. That should, expected corresponding JSX close tag for editable.mesh. We are changing the component names, so we also need to match it on both sides. So now this should give us the mesh, and it does actually seem to save between reloads, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I can select the light, and I'm going to move it up. See, now we can see it. It's still in the scene. We can see basically like the 0, 0 is down in the bottom left. So the intention was that the way I was thinking about it was when we are putting things like in the canvas, I want the bottom left of the scene, which matches up with this whole screen here. I wanted it to be in the far bottom left. So that means that anything in the vertical and horizontal, so blue and green here, would basically be like the face of the screen, and then we get the depth with it as well. So it's interesting that it, like you click this and it doesn't do anything. When you mouse over it, it actually is when it changes. Yeah, that's kind of some lazy loading something or other going on there, which is I'm fine with. So if we grab this, we can move it however we want. Supposedly it saves it in the scene and like between refreshes. I think I read somewhere. I don't see it actually changing anything here, so I'm not 100% certain how it does. It's clearly saving it somewhere in a place that is going to survive between refreshes. So, and it's not editing my file at all, which I think I would prefer that it doesn't edit my file. But where is it saving it? That is a question that I would be interested in. Okay, so animating objects. We can set, oh, interesting. So you can animate the cube's position, and we'll create some keyframes by clicking in the sequence editor. So if we go to the cube, if we go to start animating, first we have to sequence the properties of the object we want to select an object, right click on a property. And click sequence. So it says we need to right click. Okay, sequence. So here, like if we wanted to sequence this, we would do that. So I believe the idea behind the keyframes is we would go, that's a keyframe, and then we could do something like that, and that would be another keyframe. And then we do something like that. And now I assume there is some sort of like playhead. So that is once you can play your animation via space. So we should be able to see. It's a little bit laggy, but not too bad. And it looks like I don't know if it's a default animation or how it's decided, but it looks like it's over 10 seconds. So you can see it moving between all of our different keyframes. So we set a location, a second location, and a third location, and we are, it's transitioning between them. So it's handling all that transition for us. So getting ready for production. Okay, all the keyframes you created are saved to your browser's local storage. So that's how they're persisting it between. If we hit refresh, or we're using a browser via private browsing, that is more likely to destroy local storage. We're going to lose some of this. So we have to be a little bit cognizant of that we're using a browser window that isn't removing local storage, presuming we want to be able to keep or export these. It seems like it's pretty tied to this Theatre.js. So you would set up a state and then set up the animations, and then you end up doing this. So we're basically like building it up in local storage, then saving it when we're done. Yeah, your edits will still survive page refreshes because of the local storage. We can, okay, so that's kind of cool. We can actually handle some of the animations with this, which might be something that we would prefer to do or we're trying to set it up in Blender. I think if we're doing a model in Blender with the expectation that we're exporting it and pulling it into our scene, if it's an animation within the model itself, so like a person giving a thumbs up, that probably would make sense as an animation that we'd build within Blender. But if we're doing like positional movement type stuff, that's unrelated to physics, it might make sense to do some of it with this. We already have React Spring. That pulls in the 3D stuff. So this text is with React Spring. It's the double layer because we also have the window here. That pulls in. Wait, did it actually show up in this too? No, because it's different. It's a different scene. I've got two scenes layered, so it won't. So if we're not doing something with physics and we're not doing something with React Spring, it might be reasonable to use this. But I think we're probably well suited to continue using both of those and not using the state thing here. But what we are curious about is now that we've got something working, how do I adjust the camera? So Studio. Studio is only shown if studio.initialize is called. Outline details sequence global toolbar extension panes. Sheet objects. So that's these. That lets us like click between these. We're kind of like assigning refs is what it feels like. When we, yeah, okay, here you can see the state that they're talking about is in local storage. We're like, it's almost like we're assigning refs, and then that button in the editor that it hooks up to is, well, that's kind of cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like what they're doing with this. If this is if there is an actual company behind this, I'm curious what their business model is. But I can see this being very useful to teams wanting to do something of which the team is a corporation or like a marketing site or like a movie or something doing this, and like they have existing models that they want to put in the browser and use as part of their marketing material. This might make a lot of sense, and I suspect there's things there that somebody would pay for in that context. But I'm curious how what they have here is going to translate into something that will get them paid. And to be clear, it's not a bad thing for a company to exist alongside an open source piece of software. It's just an additional consideration. There's even in open source that isn't necessarily adjacent to a company that says something about the project. Is if it's it may imply that the project is a kind of a side project, and you would expect support to be less than if it was adjacent to a company. But if it's adjacent to a company, there's also the trade-off of you have corporate interests, which may or may not affect the project in a way that you like. So it's just another consideration. And like honestly, if you're doing the work, you should get paid for it. I don't have a problem with that. It's just corporate interests don't always align with what the consumers like in the consumer's best interest. So we've got a couple props on these. I just want to see how we can hook up a camera. Oh, there's keyboard and mouse controls. So I think I'm most interested in the studio part of it. So how do we... Okay, so this is the editing studio. Doesn't seem like it can collapse these at all. Oh, no, that hides it. So that's the demo sheet for the light and the cube. And I'm presuming we can have additional snapshots here. So we can have different like views of the world as we're working on it. But how do we hook up the camera? Creating sheet objects, namespacing. Playing a sheets animation, instancing sheets. Okay, so it seems to have some support for different references. That's nice. Using audio. Oh, cool. That's cool. It has some integrations to like hook it up with audio, which I think that's just sort of another point to be made. I don't know that I haven't actually tried to do audio with other React 3 Fiber implementations or projects. So that may or may not be a painful thing to do. I am curious though. All right, I feel like they're not mentioning anything about the camera, but all of their docs and such that they're showing off were kind of pointing to the fact that you could edit the camera. So these are like specific props on this. So they're backed by the sheet provider. They need to have a unique key. So the key is what ends up showing up in the editor on the left there. Yeah, it's all fine. We basically went through this whole guide. Do they say anything about the camera in here? I feel like they're kind of missing out on how to do the camera stuff. Now that we've got into it a little bit, let's see if we look back at their thread. How are they editing the camera? Ooh. That was weird. So here's the animation stuff that we were playing around with. Editable mesh, that makes sense. Once an object is marked, it shows up in the snapshot editor. Placing a camera. So when we set up the canvas in React 3 Fiber, I mean, I kind of forget that you can do HTML stuff within there, but yeah, props can be changed. That's kind of nifty. When we set it up with React 3 Fiber, we aren't actually doing a camera because the canvas comes with a default camera. I wonder if we have to have in a specific camera, like a separate camera, to be able to edit it. See, they don't say anything about a camera here. Camera. I think it's all just in the props and the default props. So if we look at one of the other implementations, let's look at Three.js. I believe you have to do they show even less code here. That's kind of interesting. Okay, because it's expecting you to have run that, which is fine. And I think it's partly because Three.js can get kind of verbose. So like it makes sense that they're just gonna not put too much of that in to help them avoid having to pay attention to and be basically make sure their docs are up to date. Anytime Three.js changes. Deploying to production. Okay. So it doesn't really say anything about cameras there either. I'm guessing the expectation is that you do like editable on the camera, but we might have to have like a non-default camera. So if we just search for camera, oh, not Canera, camera, no, whoa, camera. I don't think I saw anything in here either. Camera. Yeah, no. I don't know that search is helping us out much. So I think what we need to do is let's go to the React 3 Fiber docs. Look at the docs for cameras there and see if we can add a ref or something to the camera. So there's a default camera or your own 3 camera. So there are ways you can add multiple cameras. We didn't because we only needed the one camera. So, you know. Where would they have camera? Manual camera manipulation as part of the migration guide, I guess. Okay, yeah. So there's you can do specific cameras as well. Oh, make default. So you might want to actually do that. That might help us out a little bit here. I forgot to grab some water though, so I'm gonna grab some water. I will be right back, and then we are going to pick it up. Pick it up by adding a camera, and see if we can do it as an editable camera. It might get a little bit funky here because we are doing a perspective camera, which is a specific import from React 3 Dry, of which that editable wrapper thing might be a little bit tricky, but we'll deal with it. So let's try camera. Oh, I started reading here and I'm like, what? What is this attached stuff? Cast shadow camera left. Attach orthographic camera, attach shadow camera. What? Interesting. There's definitely some depth here. That would be kind of fun to do. XR stuff? We might. Not in the near future. Eventually, though. We'll put that on the consider list. Okay, camera. So camera manual true. So if we set our camera to manual true. Wow, that's a mouthful. And if we then add in, we're gonna have to deal with this too. I think I'm just gonna take both of these out for the moment. It's not gonna be the end of the world, but we're gonna have to deal with it. This is also for it to be a 3 perspective or dry cameras, put manual on it and fiber will not touch it. I think it probably makes sense to keep. I'm not sure. We might not even need that camera there. Let's try this perspective camera. I'm gonna assume that we can do something like this where we are setting the FOV and we are setting the position and make it the same. But I have no idea. So perspective camera should come from here. Ooh. Got too ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and look at our scene. We still have the light in the cube. It's kind of interesting that you can see like the editor and stuff in here. I guess. I suppose because it's basically adding in another camera. So like it kind of makes sense. You can change like the FOV and stuff. that's kind of wild. Whoa. Okay, what do we do with these cameras now? I guess we kind of want to go over to the bounce up doing a whole bunch of docs here, but dry. Scrolly. Let's go to cameras. We should be able to figure out how we can make these. So it can set itself as the default. You can give it children, which will not occupy the same position as the camera. You also drive it manually. It won't be responsive, and you have to calculate aspect ratio yourself. What? A cube camera that returns its texture as a render prop. It makes children invisible while rendering to the internal reflection stuff, I guess? I don't. I feel like I'm missing context there. I don't know exactly what the cube camera is. But it sounds a bit like it's an environmental thing. We might end up doing. Maybe we'll see. We might end up trying to look at the environment stuff. But let's play with it. So the perspective camera, we might not be able to use the one from Dry because I think it has kind of this expectation that it is wrapping lower level stuff, I think. So this might not work. Oh, I do need to. No, it closes. Oh, I have to put a theater key in there. Theater key. We'll say camera. Yeah, so the missing theater key definitely throws some errors and flips out a little bit if we do not add it. Yeah, so element type is invalid, expected as string. Or a class function for composite components. So that's possible that we want to do. It's doing the editable directly on meshes. We might be able to get cheeky and put a mesh and put the camera inside the mesh. I mean, we want to be able to edit the camera stuff, including like the FOV and such. And part of it too, I guess, is if we have a scene here that we're looking at things with, we can kind of use this, honestly. Like we might be able to just type those in and use this camera to like help us place our other camera rather than doing a separate perspective camera. That might be the ticket here. I mean, we can look at the code, see what the implementation of perspective camera is. If it's not too involved, we might be able to copy it and access that Here's the perspective camera and access that directly. So it's doing a forward ref. Yeah, and see that's gonna start to get comfy. And it's basically doing this perspective camera with some calculation stuff for us. Z aspect ratio. I don't know that's gonna benefit us too much here. So if we do just a perspective camera, this might be questionable, but let's just take this out to be certain we are not pulling that in. And we'll go ahead and refresh. So we've got our camera now. I don't know if this is going to be the actual... I don't really care about the sequence here. Go away. How do you make the sequence thing go away? My sound just cut out? Yeah, it did. Because it's not a big deal. I mean, I guess as long as my mic is working. Yeah, I'll get to listen to the music. Oh, now it's back. My Bluetooth has really been struggling lately. I don't know if it's a recent Windows update or what, but so like I'm fine if you go away. I don't know how to make you go away, but I can select things in here. Oh, editor. There we go. Okay. So where's our cube? I feel like I'm kind of like losing the cube in actual space here. It says it should be visible. And if we select the cube, can we get rid of these keyframes? I don't really want the keyframes. I was just playing around with it. Yeah, okay. Oh, and you can adjust the size of this and everything. So if I click, that is a little bit unclear to me how, like if I click a camera, it seems to be opening up a new window of which I've got snapshots here, but like how did those go away as well? So if I want to like close or delete or stop using a snapshot, it still says it's there. How do you get rid of it? Is there visible? I've deleted it or I've closed it. It's just gone now. Okay, so if you refresh, it does go away, which is good. That's just a little bit awkward, but it's fine. It does look like the cube is, so our camera has likely changed. So if we go to our camera, I don't really want to edit you, but so we've got a camera and it's actually, the view that we're seeing is not the actual camera that we're editing. And I think that's a little bit awkward. I think for this use case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a snapshot. I'm going to adjust the snapshot to we can't really like see down the camera though. So like even if we've got the camera there, if I want to be able to like view this camera, I think I've got it set as default. So how do we do set camera ref? So it's doing a camera ref and it does the make default. So the layout effect is based on if default. Okay, so we need to set the camera as current. So if we do a use 3, that's going to give us like this state. I'm kind of okay with that. I think we end up having to do something like that though. This is a lot of like futzing around. To get a specific camera here. So this will give us a specific camera. Use frame. Is there any other camera things in here? Okay. So it gives you access to the state model, which contains the default render, the scene, your camera, and so on. You cannot export reactivity in Three.js internals. So if we do this, and we put this here, we are going to, we've got a use 3. No. So we're going to say use 3 camera, camera dot. Are you going to help me out here at all? It's thinking. The IDE is doing things. Okay. It's not really helping me out. I want to set the camera to be the current, I think. So we need to do a set. Camera. Does it do anything with the camera here? It just sets up the camera, and then with the camera ref, we're doing that. We're update projection matrix. If make default old cam, and then we set the camera. We don't actually use camera in here at all. Oh, old cam is camera. Okay. I mean, I think we can basically do this. Ugh, this is starting to get kind of fussy. We're gonna set up a camera ref. We should have, we're not doing TypeScript, so we can get rid of this. We've got the React finals, do it as React.use ref. We we don't have any if make defaults. So if camera ref or camera changes, I guess. I guess that's really just camera ref, because we're using camera there. So camera ref should be a ref there. So we should be able to then do a ref on our perspective camera. I'm presuming that these are Three.js APIs that we can use. So let's see what we're working with now. Unexpected token. So we still have a little bit of TypeScript stuff in here. So the bang on the end of .current is a TypeScript thing only, I believe. That is telling TypeScript that this is going to be there. Like, you don't need to check to make sure that we have that value. It thinks it can potentially be undefined, but we're saying, hey, it's there. We're not going to bother doing guardrails or anything like that. It will be there. Sort of an override. All right. The scene hasn't been initialized yet. Is it just taking some time? Our 3F hooks can only be used within the canvas component. So we need to nest some of this stuff, which is unfortunate. Okay. This is getting painful. What we're going to end up doing here is we're going to say perspective camera. We're going to take off the ref. We're going to get rid of all of that. We are going to say make default. Now we are literally going to copy and paste this whole thing in and adjust the perspective camera right there just to make the whole bloody thing editable. That's curious. Oh, that's import type. Is that a type? That must be a type import. Yep, that's a type import. Okay, so I'm not going to need the thing from Three.js. I'm kind of surprised they didn't do import type there, but let's get rid of those couple of TypeScript things. Get rid of the bangs. So now this is going to give us something that we can say editable, which this is a lot of effort just to make that camera editable. So now we should have a perspective camera coming from here. We're doing some React things, and it's going to give us an editable perspective camera. That should make it the default. That should handle all of that for us, and we are giving it an FOV in a position. It is passing those down then. We need that merge refs. So I'm going to just go ahead and put it right here. It shouldn't matter that it's out of order. More TypeScript. I think that's going to be enough. Let's go ahead and refresh. So now we have a separate component, and we're doing all of that work within the actual component which is within the canvas. So we're not going to have it complaining on us. Okay, so I don't care about you. It should be set up now where if we change this, yep, you can see our whole camera, because that's our default camera now. So these are the initial pieces. Now we have a camera that we can edit. When we do physics within the camera, any meshes within the physics, the position I believe it's just the position is going to be taken over by the physics engine. So we're not going to be able to make those elements editable because physics is like taking care of it. So like the initial position stuff would be nice to hook up to that. I don't know that it is going to be something that we can basically affect at all, but I think we'll be able to throw it in there. I do kind of want to throw in the suspense as well, but I don't know that it's going to matter too much here. So if we go ahead and refresh, we'll save. How reload is kind of, it's interesting that we get that is defined already. So it's initializing the scene. Give it a minute. If our physics stuff is working, hey, look at that. We do have debug mode still on. Let's go ahead and turn that off because I do not need debug on right now. And you can actually see, before we turn it off, the lines down at the bottom here, that's that little physics thing that we're putting in as a rigid body. That is down here. So when you see those things fall down, they're actually dropping and hitting that. And we can see it here. If we do let's just drop some spiky things. We're gonna have like 2 levels drop, which is a little bit awkward. But the ones in the back, you can see have the debug mode on, and they're hitting that physics object. So let's go ahead and save. I think we might turn off the overall scene because we're going to be triggering it. I think it makes sense to trigger it within our browser source here. So let me go ahead and just turn that off. We'll just hide that overlay for the moment. So now if I trigger, let's drop some chairs. We shouldn't see it in the overall scene, and it'll just happen there. Yeah. So we're getting the debug stuff. The collider that it creates for that chair is interesting. With the debug mode on, you can see it looks like it's actually the whole bottom underneath the feet. Yeah. You can see it kind of twisting around there. I don't think it's actually, I think there's actually a collider that's underneath it. So you're not going to be able to, like, if you've got this like thin line, the chair's not going to come down and like sit like this. It's going to go bump and bounce off because the collider is actually more of a cube, it kind of looks like. There's some sort of triangles in there. So we might want to deal with that because that's a little bit funky, but we'll do, okay, so debug mode's on, or debug mode's off. So we should not see that anymore. When it refreshes, all of those things should drop. We don't see them in here because they're not marked as editable. We might be able to actually mark them as editable. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I don't think hemisphere and directional, I don't think it's going to make sense to like play around with those, but we might want to actually add specific point lights instead. Let's add on the chair, mark these as editable. So it's an instanced mesh, which is still a low-level thing. So this might work. We're not going to be able to affect the position, I'm presuming, because physics is taking over. So I think basically on every tick of the physics engine, it's writing the position essentially based on all the inputs that we've given it. So gravity is the velocity. We get a couple other things that are velocities and such. So it seems like the instance mesh that we're using is causing an issue. So we might not actually be able to do that because we're using instanced rigid bodies. So that might not be something that we can do. But what we could try is if we just use a specific rigid body, not bother with the instanced thing. Let's see if it actually shows up in there at all. I don't think I really care either way. It's more of a curiosity at this point. React 3 repeater. So if we just toss in a rigid body, I don't even know what those restitution and type kinematic position. Kinematic position might just keep it in a rigid spot. I don't really want to. I want to make them editable, so I want to do. I don't want to use sphere because I don't want to use things that we have to run through React 3 dry. I want to use the lower level elements. Let's look at their docs real quick. I mean, I could probably just change it. Maybe that's the easier thing to do. We're going to wrap the thing in a rigid body anyways, so we probably don't care too much. So if we just grab this mesh and we wrap the thing in a rigid body, that's probably going to be sufficient. So let's go ahead and do this, and we'll just copy that in here. We don't want to fix it. But let's see what it looks like. So we undid the change to the instance mesh. So I'd expect it to oh, okay. Ooh. All right. So it showed up. It shows up as a rigid body. We don't have it marked as editable, so it's not going to show up in that yet. But now if we do editable.mesh, editable.mesh, go ahead and give it a refresh. I'm curious if it's going to show up in this snapshot right there. Gotta wait for the scene to initialize. Unreachable. I'm not surprised. It's unfortunate, but I'm not surprised. So we've got just a single mesh, or we've got a simple mesh with a box geometry. This is how we would make it editable in the context of the Theatre.js. But I think the rigid body is doing something there that Theatre.js cannot work with. So if we move it outside of the rigid body, yeah. So it seems that the React 3 rapier is taking over some context here that Theatre.js is expecting to have. If we move it outside of the physics completely, that's odd. What is going on? What are the errors that we're getting? Is there something that I didn't save? No? We've got editable. We're importing it. Got a point light. Is it this editable.mesh, the box geometry? Didn't I copy it from here? Yeah, I copied it from here. Mesh. Yeah. I didn't put the theater key on it. Got caught by that again. Okay. Theater key. Let's give that another shot. Yeah, I think without the theater key, it kind of like explodes. I wonder if there's a way we can like check for it, basically. So it's there. Did things hit it? So it does remember the position of this camera too, which is nice. It seems like things just go through it, which is what I'd expect. But let's move it into physics. That shouldn't affect anything. Like we shouldn't start getting colliders until we put it in a rigid body. It's not throwing errors, which is nice. So now if we wrap it in a rigid body, now that I have the theater key on there, is it going to give us errors? Rigid body. And I'm expecting it to show up in here too. So it did do physics. But where is it? Cube. So yeah, I think this is kind of an indication of, yeah, okay, so you can see it. I was just way zoomed out. Okay, that makes sense. This is effectively its initial position. So if we're going to go into transform. If I move up, and we'll move it over and move it up, we should now be able to hit refresh. That position should stay because we're affecting the position and saving it in local storage. And you can see it moved. So when it is in a rigid body, it works. So that's working. Now I'm curious about the instanced meshes. So if we say, no, that metcap material. No, let's not get too involved here. Let's do the star. Okay, so I just need an instanced mesh. So if we drop in our instanced mesh, I think we can say undefined, undefined. And then I think we can pull this whole mesh here. We need a theater key. I think we can keep that. And I am curious if we do this, if it's still going to give us issues. We are not going to have a positions, so I don't think we want to actually adjust the positions. Well, let's just see if it explodes. We are getting errors though. So it seems that, I don't know if it's a Theatre.js thing or a thing with Theatre.js or a thing with Rapier. But we tried a couple setups to get instances to be editable. we would be able to change the initial position is what it appears to be. But once the initial position is set, the physics engine takes over, which is fine. I think I'm actually cool with that. Seems like there's a little bit of tweaking or work that needs to be done to get the, I don't know if it's instances with Theatre.js or otherwise, but I'm okay with how that's working. So let's see if we can play around with this camera a little bit here. See if we can get the camera to be a little bit more dialed in. I know we want to adjust this FOV here. It's going to be difficult because we're not going to be able to like get a good indication of the elements within this space. We could, though. We want to sort of like keep some boxes on the screen. That might be sufficient. Box geometry. I mean, I don't really need it editable. I think I'm gonna actually opt to not make it editable just so there's not an additional element there that's clogging up my UI right there. We're gonna say orange is gonna be the color, but what we're gonna do is position. I think we can set the position for everything. So this one, I think 000 is redundant, but that is fine. I don't know what the boundaries are. So that's going to be something that we need to discover. But if we do this up maybe 30, and this one's going to be, so 0 and 30, 0 and 30. That's going to give us X and Y, and I think that's going to give us sort of like a square. And then this ends up being right in the middle. So this should be our center. And that should give us cubes in each of the spots. I guess we actually do want to hook them up because we want to be able to see them here. Yep. Let's make them editable. No. That's okay. All right. Calm down here. All right. There we go. Let's select all of these. We'll do editable.mesh. Then we need keys for each one of them. So theater key. We'll select just the top ones. Theater key. And then we need to do, those are not lights. Those are, we'll call them corners. We'll call the last one center. And we will say left bottom, right bottom. This would be left top. Come on. And then this one will be top right. I'm actually going to switch those. Bottom left, bottom right, top left. I don't know why, but that just sounds better. That sounds better to me. So now, since they're editable, they should show up in the scene, and that'll give us sort of a reference point. And we can hopefully see them somewhere. Okay, so I see the red one. Red one is in the corner. Oh, do I need to do the position on the mesh? Can I do a cut? I don't know if I could do a cut there. Ooh. 1, 2. Ah, that's cheeky. Okay. So if we do a cut, is that going to give us that? Hey, look at that. I'm happy that that worked. So if we put the position on the mesh, is that going to give us what we want? There we go. Okay. So we've got a camera. The camera is pointing at the scene. We did the we didn't do those right though. And I think that's been the confusing part is like this array, I get a position. The position has an array. I don't know what spots those are. So like is this height? That's height, right? I mean, I knew that at one point, but have since forgotten it, which is why I filled it. So like those should be fine. I want them to go this way in the scene. We are going this way into the scene. Okay, it says you hot reloaded, but it doesn't feel like you actually hot reloaded. So we're gonna hit refresh. No, now it did it. I mean, we're getting it there, but now it's now it's in the wrong direction still. So it's going depth-wise. So 15, 15. It's still putting it in the middle. And I changed. So this one's the height. I think we want to do this. 3, 3, and this should be 0, and this should be 0. That doesn't make sense. Tab 0, 0 there, so we'll do that. Okay. I think this is definitely the most awkward part of dealing with this is and also like, is this the whole scene now? Yeah, I like took over my canvas and reset it with height. Yep. So it's actually like resetting it. I don't know if that's because so like we can't actually believe this wrapper now that we're seeing, which is also unfortunate. So our camera here is, I don't know if this camera or if these boxes are going to be sufficient to be the corners of my screen. Because it's also going to kind of depend on the FOV. So my canvas switched. We are doing the canvas here and we're setting it classes.canvas. So I wonder if it's like this camera. I don't know why the canvas would be like resetting like that. It's not great. But our position is fine. We do get the FOV in here. So if we adjust the FOV, you can see that camera change, which is really great. So now we just need to figure out how to basically like show the edge of. Okay, I got a potential idea. If we go into here, we can do. You want to go dynamic responsive. So we can go 1920 by 1080. There. I think that's going to give us effectively the right size. Okay, so it's auto adjusting the zoom. I think we're gonna. Ooh, no, I want DevTools open. I need DevTools. Because that's gonna keep my aspect ratio for that. So if we now look at this, we are still not seeing the whole thing. Auto adjust zoom. It doesn't seem like it's actually auto adjusting. Okay, that's not what I want. 1920 by 1080. Is this actually bigger? No, it's not. Okay. So our red box is definitely not in the middle. That's a problem. We've got position of the camera and we have a rotation. So rotation is going to be determining this, I think. So if we say maybe 4. Oh, it's turning it. Okay. And that's going to be partly dependent on. So before we had a look at, and that wasn't actually changing the rotation of the camera. What if we do, we have a perspective camera, theater key, make default, FOV. Can we now do a rotation? So if I do 0, -151, I think it was. 0. And change this to be rotation. We're chugging a little bit. I guess that's I don't know if this responsive window is giving us issues or what. So these controls are nice. I do like it. Okay, so it did actually set the rotation. So we can set the rotation now. So this, I think, is going to be our window. We want to be able to see all of these squares. How do we do this? The downside of being in this view is now we've got like the interactive thing. Because we're in like this mode. I guess we turn this off. I don't know. That's actually gonna help us out. We can do at least the width though. I think that's probably gonna be the best thing here. So we do. Well, we want to do 1920. So let's zoom out. Whoop. Not DevTools. Zoom out here. So 19, still not big enough. Still not big enough. Okay. Wish you could click in there. 1920. Okay, close enough by 1080. I think we were just a bit on the tall side. So we... I really wish it didn't blitz my canvas size. It's just feels awkward. Okay, so we need to get... We need to be able to see the boxes. I don't know that the boxes are in the spots that... I guess... Okay, this is a way to think about it. The boxes are in locations. This is like starting locations. So if we say this starting location is the top, we would need to adjust the FOV so the FOV is in a spot where it doesn't look very fish islands. So if we go into 90, you can see we start getting like some depth, some real depth there, which is not what we want. They are one forward though, so we're actually going to move them one back. So the cubes are centered. They're 1, 1, 1, and they're placed via the center. So like, I want the front face of the square to be on the front face of like the screen effectively. So if we look here, that should be the situation now. And they're all still half over. So I don't think we want to do I don't think we want to do 90. Something like 45 or 50 is probably going to be good. I think I'm going to go with 45. Near and far, like the draw distance. So anything outside of that range, near or far, is not going to be actually drawn. We do then need to adjust the position. So if I say 30 tall is going to be where we first start seeing them, which I think is probably a good number. Aspect ratio wise, here, let's do calc. We have a screen that's 1920 by 1080. So the aspect ratio of this is, so it's 1.78 wide versus tall. So if our tall is 1080, we end up getting it's the I don't know what that's called, that math thing where you have two fractions and you have one unknown. You could do cross multiply and divide. So we have a width and a height, 1920 by 1080, and a height, which is 30. And we want to know how far over to the right we should go. So we're going to do 30 times 1920 divided by 1080. So if we are placing it at a 30, we want to do the right as 53.3. Hmm, 53.3? Yeah, I wonder if you could pass in like XYZ for the position. Can you give it an object? I think that would work a lot better with my brain, at least. It's also interesting. It seems like the hot ray loading's not working, which is kind of weird. Okay, I did it in the wrong direction. It got taller. So we need to do 53.3. I don't know that I labeled these either correctly. 30, 53.3. I don't know that I care though. If we click on them, we can see it once it loads again. I guess it's probably worth bottom left. So bottom left is correct. Bottom right. Yep. So my bottom right is actually my top left. My top left is actually my bottom right. And my top right is correct. Okay, so now if we want to get the camera to see this, let's select the camera. We need, I think I'm good with it, FOV. So that means that I need to, I want the camera, the center of the camera to look at the center of the screen effectively, I think. Potentially with a little bit of an up. So we need to, we can drag on this, right? Yeah. So X is going to draw us back. I think we want to do that. Y is going to, so Z and then Y is going looking up. I think we want to get the, let's put in another screen here. I'm going to do this perspective. I wish you could snap. That would be a nice feature for them to add. Where I could like snap it to be sideways. So like I want this camera here so I can tell if I'm kind of hit in the middle of it. And we also end up wanting like a top-down one. So this is going to go like this, in which case we're probably going to need to like come back quite a bit here. If we're keeping this FOV, I think I want that there. And see, so that's the other thing. We're looking at a defined point. So as I'm moving the camera, we're moving the camera itself, but we're not adjusting the actual like view. So that would be, nope, not that one. We're going to want to twist it like this. I don't think we want that twist. So this is going to twist it that way. I don't think we want that. Also a similar twist. So I think for the most part, we're just going to be adjusting this rotation. And we do, I think, want to go up a little bit. I mean, where's my boxes now? Can I even see my boxes here? Okay. So I've got a box. It's not exactly in the center. I think my FOV is still fine. So I think I'm going to need to keep going out until I can start to see the edges of my boxes here. So let's say -45. All right, so I can see a box there now. And you can kind of tell that we're like off kilter just a smidge. So we want to do, so this is going to adjust up and down. I think we say something like 15. This is going to adjust the, we want to go over more, I think. And we want to rotate this. So we'll say if we go 20 here, oh, no. I think my X is probably a little bit high, but it's good for the moment. I kind of feel like 15 is pretty solid here. I want it to move this way. Okay, so that was the Z. I thought I was changing the Z before. I guess it's actually, I actually do kind of, I was getting too into it over there. I think we can kind of go something like that. And then rotation. I think the rotation is going to be difficult here. Because like it's really touchy. And I don't know if that's just because of my distance. Okay, so up and down tweaks it, but it's really, really touchy. Okay, that is feeling pretty good. Go back to transform. So if I do 15 here, what are we looking at? 15, say 24. Negative 37 feels good. All right. So if we do a refresh, I probably should have written that down just in case. But if we do a refresh, it should keep it all. I think I do still need to tweak the camera down a little bit. So I want to go down just a tad, and I want to look up just a little bit. I'm going to rotate the camera so I'm looking up. I do want to move over a little bit here. I think I do want to rotate the camera. Can I use the keyboard? No. It'd be nice to like, yeah, it feels like it would be nice to tweak that. Okay, so I need to look up a little bit. It feels odd that I'm, so 315. Yeah, we got some kind of wild rotation in there, I think. Yeah, that feels weird. Okay, so I'm a little bit down, so I want to look up just a tad. So if I do like 0.6, is this? Okay, so I'm actually going like that. So maybe the 5.7 is fine. So how do I tilt it? I need to rotate about this axis. Space local. Okay. Oh, come on. Select it. There we go. So I want to go a little bit like this. Like that's way too much, but oh, okay. So I need to do both X and Y. So it's like tilting it like this and then tilting it like that almost, it seems. So if I do negative 51, I do 0 for this one, 0 for this one. But now if I do like 0.2 and 0.2, I can't tell if it's doing what I'm expecting it to. What did I do with my rotation before? What was my rotation? Perspective camera. We're doing a look at. So we're not actually affecting the rotation, we're looking at it. So it ends up like figuring out a rotation on that, yeah, from that basically. That is just, okay. So like that makes sense to me. I'm gonna face the camera this way. I wonder if I don't have the, I'm just turning the camera. I'm not actually adjusting where it's looking. It's still looking at the horizon. So I almost have to do the look at, I think. I might be able to do this uncreated. Let's see, perspective camera. It seems like I might be able to. So we will go ahead and chuck that in there. I'm kind of feeling pretty good about these. So I think I'm going to do position -15. We're going to do an FOV of 45, position of -37. We had 9 and 22. So say 11 and 30. And what happens now when we refresh? Is it actually going to do the look at? So it's initializing it. We still have some rotation. I think it's because that's in there. Oh, we got a little bit on the Z as well. So, I mean, overall, this camera thing is kind of nice, but it seems like they're missing the look at, which I feel like you kind of need. It doesn't seem like it's actually adjusting the. Okay, if I select it, I mean, that's definitely doing it there. Oh, I do have a rotation set there as well. So maybe I scrub this. I can dial in my rotation a little bit here. We've kind of got stuff in corners. So you can see that when I rotate that, it's actually adjusting two of them. Yeah, okay. I was thinking that these matched up with the rotations in the wheel, but I don't think that's. I don't think that's the case here. So 11, we'll say 30. I really would love like a top down here because I want to be editing this. Did it freeze up? No. I want to be editing this from completely top down. I just realized too, my red dot is not actually in the middle. So half of 53, I guess. 25. What's half of 3? 1.5. 26.6, I guess we'll call it. That's pretty much right in the center. And I think we're just going to dial in the rotation here a little bit. I really wish I could. Can we edit the cameras here? Okay. Oh, they have a target. So this one doesn't have a target. These do. That makes sense. Okay. So I might be able to get. So the target is. And I wonder too if you can attach editor cameras to specific things. That would be nice to. Oof. Okay. This is choppy right now. Whoa. 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 Oh. Okay. All right. Bye. Welcome back. Wow. Why is it so choppy? I don't know if this like the scroll is just I keep doing so the controls for this versus Blender are just slightly different enough that it is like messing with my head here. Okay. Okay, like fine. That's good enough to be top down, I think. Hello, old man. How's it going? um, I would venture to guess that's not a great way to get a question answered. Feel free to ask, but future advice, I guess. So let's try making these 1.6. Get these to match up. They're really big decimals here. So it is tilting up a little bit now. And we do have a little bit of a rotation here. It's 1.5, 0.4. I mean, I think that's getting pretty close. I think we want to dial this in just a smidge. And it does feel like we're a tad rotated. Okay. That's not welcome here. That's pretty sexist. So, we're going to get rid of that comment. I'm going to ask you to not do that anymore. Thank you. Okay. Let's It is still a little bit rotated, and I'm not quite sure how can we make it less rotated? I mean, some of this is like, was it 1.57 maybe? Like it's twisted slightly, and I'm not quite sure how to make it less, just a little bit less twisted. I think we do need these to be the same. Okay. All right. Why is this something popped? That was weird. What the heck? What, It is just a little bit off kilter, and I can't seem to figure out why. Like, what do I need to tweak to make it less? So, I think we're pretty close on this. I'm gonna write these down. -125, 1.55. So these are in radians, I gotta assume, rather than degrees. Actually, maybe that's not a bad. Let's do rad 2 degrees. What is 1.5? Because I definitely am better at thinking about it in degrees. So when we do a turn, we want to do an exact turn of 90 degrees. So if we do 90, it's going to be 157. 125 is odd. So if we do 157, I think that makes sense. 157, and then we need to do, oh, y is 1. I was compensating because that y had got changed. I don't know. I don't remember when I changed that. So 11, negative 37, 11, 30. So I need to move over more, I think. So if we bump that up just a bit. So I'm trying to center so if we have a camera and we rotate it exactly 90 degrees, we're going to be pointing basically theoretically like right at the center with the horizon. So I should be able to adjust the Z to get it to kind of line up here. So that looks good. And then if we tweak this to be just a little bit further back, and we start getting that in there. We need to go a little bit to the left, I think. Yeah. And then we need to go up a little bit because we're not including, well, we actually do want to stay down a little bit, and we want to turn the camera up. So let's go ahead and write those down. 37, 10, and 27. And then we did 157 for basically an exact 90 degrees. So from here, we also want to rotate up a little bit. So if we do, if we're looking right at the horizon, we want to go up a little bit. I'm guessing we're probably looking at something like 15 degrees. Right now we've got 155. Now, like that feels odd. Like, why would we be doing 90 degrees? So if we say like 0.3, what is that going to give us? I kind of wish you could like change two of these at the same time. It doesn't seem to be doing what I'm expecting it to do. So if I turn this, I want to like pull it up. Oh. Okay, wait. There. Um yeah, it keeps coming out to that. That feels odd to me that we'd be rotating that much. I think there's something like we're rotating and we're rotating, so then they end up it's like a squared plus b squared square root kind of situation. So that might actually not be bad right there, because we're starting to see the top, we see the bottom. If we bump this up just a little bit, 157, whoop, 157, 157. This should be negative 1.57. Oh, yeah. See, that's the other thing. If I don't bump or if I don't adjust my y, that is just super confusing. I don't think the y is actually doing what I'm thinking it is. 0, 0, 0. Yeah, okay. So as we rotate these, we're actually like rotating. Yeah, it's really no wonder I was having a really hard time getting this figured out. So like if we do something like that, I think we kind of end up getting right around where we want to be. 1, 6. So we've got like multiple rotations going on here, and I think that's what's sort of like making this very difficult. That's not bad. That's not bad right there. I probably want to go just a little bit to the left. I don't know if I can do maybe 0 there. And 5. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. What if we do 20? 27 feels like 26.75. I kind of like that. I kind of like it. So if we do 37, negative 37, 10, 26.75, 155, and negative 145. I think that's gonna be it. I think I feel pretty good with that. So that should put us with the bottom of our scene with that rigid object kind of right there. Can we turn on the debug? Let's turn on the debug, and then we'll be able to see that rigid body right there. Just take a little bit to load. Okay, we can't actually see it. It's just a little bit on the low side. So I think we need to tweak this down just a tad here. I feel like having a little bit more fine-grained controls would be great. 2.5 maybe, and we'll bump this up to 7.5. Yeah, see, it's just a little bit. That's not bad right there. 7.6 and 4. Okay. And that's like, this is the downside too with radiance is, 360 degrees is what? I guess 2.14. So you end up having to do a lot of decimal places to like really, a couple of degrees with a camera can matter because you're looking at a thing and just tweaking a 1 degree way out in the distance, that amount that you've moved is can get quite large. So just doing a couple degrees here and there is gonna potentially make a big difference. And this might actually be pretty good right here, because the plane's gonna be right at the bottom there. That might be good. I might be good with that. Can we do here? Let me try enabling the overlay again. But we're gonna try using this localhost for the moment. Okay, so it should be enabled. You can see we actually have the controls. That's hilarious. Because we got that stuff in there. That's what I was talking about with the production stuff. Oh, here, we'll go onto the screen. And I will toggle it on and off. So you'll see when it loads, because you can see the their controls. I'm kind of okay with that. It's right about where I want it to be, I think. And I think I'm going to sort of leave those boxes in there. Like the perspective is pretty good. I'm not getting the fisheye lens distortion that we were having before. That feels pretty good. I think some of those objects I'll want to scale a little bit. Some of them are small relative to the others. I wasn't paying super close attention when I was creating them as far as the scale goes. But like that star could probably be a little bit smaller, and the beam could potentially be a little bit bigger. The chair could potentially be a little bit bigger too, depending on what we feel like. So yeah, I think this is a good place to call it. We got this working. I think it's gonna work well for us. We found out that the instance meshes aren't going to work within Rapier. I don't know if it's a Rapier thing or if it's this Theatre.js, but it all seems to work pretty well. The big thing that we were looking for was to have access to the camera and be able to, using the editor, tweak the camera. And what we were struggling with was we could move the camera and kind of get it in the right spot, but it's that subtle rotation that was very difficult to dial in, just tweaking a number and refreshing over and over and over. And that was especially the case I mean, we were having cache issues. That definitely did not help the situation. But we were having issues with the cache and that little bit of rotation and the field of view. Like those are the things that were really difficult to dial in. With the field of view, here actually, the reason I went with 45, if you have used cameras before, particularly ones with lenses, the lenses come in millimeters. So the standard stock lens that you tend to get is like a 18 to 50, I think, tends to be pretty common. So like right around in the middle of that, the like 35 millimeter is probably like when you're looking at a picture, if it's just like a standard field of view, 35 I think is probably right around in that range. So the focal length of 35 millimeter. So like 18. What is this? Got I think this is an 18 millimeter. So my field of view is my field of view is wider. So it's like a little bit wider, and then that's what gives you the depth. But presuming 35 feels. Wait, what's this number? I need the full table, I think. I can't look at this. And then now we got FS, FX, and DX, because there's crop factors, so we start to get into advanced stuff. Horizontal, okay, so horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. That starts to get confusing. Well, either way, 35-ish feels normal-ish. And that's kind of how I ended up picking it. 35, 45, we're in the like 40 to 50-ish range. So when we were incrementing on it, 45-ish felt good. So we get some depth, but not too much, and it doesn't get the weird fisheye because we're like really high field of view. So the field of view is basically like we had 90 before, so we were looking at this little square, and we were trying to fit 90 degrees, which is like human field of view. You're taking this whole, like I can see my hands on either side right now in my peripherals. We're taking this whole like field of view and squishing it into a box, and that's when you end up basically getting that like fisheye look. So, anyways, I think we got it all dialed in. It was helpful to have the controls. I think it would be nice to have a little bit more fine-grained control on those with the controls. Just little tweaks, like I saw stuff about keyboard shortcuts, so maybe I was just missing the keyboard shortcuts. But like getting those snaps to line up in the perfect spots so you can do perfect rotations would be real nice. But also, like, I think some of this is more for animations and then like camera panning kind of animations, which I imagine is less, like it matters less that you're exact on the degrees. You're giving it a camera position, and you're doing like the tweens between them. So I can see why that probably wasn't a priority, but it would for my use case, it would be nice to have it in there. And with the physics stuff, it's nice to have things editable to put them in initial spots, but it seems like they only work with the rigid bodies right now, not the instanced meshes. But yeah, otherwise we hit on all the things. I think we got our camera kind of dialed in now, and I'll put that up to the scene. So next time it'll be we'll get a little bit less of this fisheye look here for comparison. Let's drop a couple things in here. So, oh, I turned it off. Let me turn these back on. There we go. It'll drop all the things. So this was the old way. There we go. You can see the fisheye. The spheres are more like elongated things. So I think we've dialed it in. It was pretty fun to explore this. I think if we had more advanced WebGL scenes, it would being able to act on your scene with this would be really nifty. I think we've kind of explored the edges for how we're going to use it, though. So it was cool. I'm glad that we were able to try it today. So next time we might be doing a different topic. Maybe not WebGL stuff. Maybe not 3D stuff. Maybe not Blender. TBD. Others, have a good weekend. Keep experimenting. We'll see you next time. And have a good weekend. Bye.